Welcome to Banks and Markets. This is Finam. This video is the continuity of my discussion on performance evaluation techniques. Now, in the last video, I was talking about some key indicators and we discussed all the way to modified Sharpe ratio. Now we want to look into the utility score. So here we want to find out the utility for an investor who is risk seeking in nature, therefore the risk aversion score is 2. We also want to find out the utility for another investor who is moderate in terms of risk seeking, so the score is 3.5, and we have the final investor who is risk averse and do not want to take the risk, therefore risk averse and score is 5. So what will be the utility for these three different types of investors? Now remember the formula of the utility, which is motivated from the utility curve, is this. This is the formula. So return minus the risk aversion, half of the risk aversion, times this the variance. So this is what we need to find out the utility, also known as certainty equivalent quotient. So here we go, the formula, and therefore equal return, we're taking the geometric mean, therefore it will be, and we were taking for consistency purpose the weekly one and geometric mean return. And this takeaway, what we need is now the risk aversion theta times 0.5, which is basically saying dividing by 2, and times the variance, which is standard deviation square. So that's what we get for the first investor, and I can copy this and use for the second and the third investor. I just need to change the risk tolerance score, which in this case will be 3.5, and finally I have this, which will be 5, which is this. So now what we can do is just make a quick analysis of these numbers, and we will see that the person with the highest utility, who is it? So the person with highest utility in this example is the one who has, as you can see, not 7154 is higher than this 2, therefore the risk seeking person enjoys the maximum utility. And this makes sense because if we see the numbers here compared to the benchmark, the returns are attractive, but the risk is higher for the portfolio, substantially higher compared to the benchmark. So for such a risk-seeking person, the utility as recorded here is higher. Okay, so that was for the CEQ. Now we've got the winning trade. So how many times the investor is winning. So basically we are saying count if the returns are greater than 0, i.e. when the returns are positive. So we just need to say greater than 0, and that should give us 8, because out of 12 weekly performance, 1, 2, 3, 4 are negative. That gives us 8, and if we apply the same for market, it should be 12, because market has always, every week, although lower in majority cases, it is giving a positive return. So that we just calculated, but this kind of calculation is important when we have long time series type of data, i.e. when we want to find out from a number of returns how many times the return was positive and how many times the return went negative. So over here now we just need to change the symbol into less than, and we get 4, whereas when we do it for the benchmark it should be 0. Now we need to calculate Shortino ratio, a very important measure, especially when the market is in declining trend. And I've got another video which has discussed about the Shortino for reference purpose. You can look into that. But here the threshold for Shortino, I'm going to put the weekly risk-free rate, because we're taking everything on a weekly basis as the threshold. Now I need to find out the downside risk. So the downside risk can be computed, and it is simple. What we need to do to find out the downside risk is we need to think of a hurdle rate. So then after identifying that hurdle rate, the portfolio returns, periodic return minus the hurdle rate, because we are trying to find out the standard deviation for those returns which are below the hurdle rate. So let us do it. Okay, now let's assume that the hurdle rate is going to be the mean return, which is this number here. So this number here is the hurdle rate, which is appearing in my case AE37. So with that in mind, what I can do is calculate my downside risk, and to do that I go here and I say to my computer equal if this portfolio return is less than or equal to the hurdle rate, which is AE here, the one that I highlighted yellow, and I'm going to lock this, and if this is the case, if this is less, then what I want is I want the difference, which is the difference between the portfolio return and that hurdle rate, which is AE37, and it is here the geometric mean. Okay, but if it's not the case, then I just want to report blank. So here it was the case, 0.0578 was lower than 0.07. Therefore what I asked is to give me the difference between 0.0578 minus 0.07, which is this number here. So now I should be able to copy it down. Just make sure that I have locked the necessary cells, which is the hurdle rate. So now I scroll down, I may see some numbers in some weeks and no numbers in some other weeks. So that's correct. Now I need to take the square of this, as explained in my previous video. So I take the square and then I do the same for the remaining, and I get this, and now I need to add these all together. So when I add them all together, I get the summation, and I know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So I also know there are 6 of them. So I divide this by this number 6, and finally I need to take the square root, which is this. So my downside risk is 0.00528. Now while showing you this, I did it slowly, but what you can do to find the same quickly is, once you know this, you know that you need to take the square root of them. So what you can do is equal, you can say first square root of what? Square root of some square of sorry, all of these, and then you want to divide them by 6, which is the count. So count of all these numbers. Okay, and therefore close bracket, should get the same number as here. So if you want to avoid this additional column and all this calculation, you can simply apply some Excel functions such as this. Anyway, our purpose was to receive this, which we have obtained now, which is in AZ33. So I'm going to put it down as my downside risk, which is here. I'm going to AZ37, I think. All right, okay, this side, and it is this number here. Taking that. Okay, that's downside risk. It is here reported in percentage. It doesn't matter, whatever the number is, we can avoid percentage to get the same number, but that's fine. Okay, so my mouse is moving very quickly. Now what we can do now is find out the Shortino, which is going to be the return from the portfolio, which is we can take the geometric mean that we were taking for most of the indicators. So geometric mean minus this threshold, which is the risk-free rate, and the risk-free rate is 0.056, and divided by downside, which is this. Okay, so that's our Shortino ratio. Of course, we don't need to worry about the benchmark, because we haven't found the semi-deviation for the benchmark. Okay, but just the illustration of Shortino, you can do similar for the benchmark if you want to. Now that's Shortino. Now we need to find out a few more indicators, and this one, maximum drawdown. Basically, you first need to calculate the drawdowns, and I have explained about the drawdowns in my other video in which I have done, I think it's called comprehensive portfolio performance evaluation. There you can learn about the concept and methods behind working out the drawdowns, but this is simply the first. You need to find out the accumulated return, which you have found over here. Now what you need to do is equal this minus maximum of this with the same. That's what you do first, and then you lock this cell and you move down. These are going to be your drawdowns, and you will see that the portfolio was increasing in values. So here something like this, and from this point they are negative. So drawdown basically records the dip before the jump, before the next highest jump. So we've got all these drawdowns. Now we need to find out the maximum drawdown, which is the minimum of all of them. So it is in column AL, 18 to 29. So over here now, when we go to our place where we have indicated maximum drawdown, what we need to do is equal min of minimum of all of these, which is going to be minimum of all of the drawdowns, which is here somewhere, all of these. So I think that it's going to be minus 1.97 because it appears the highest. So that's what we get. And average drawdown is simply the average of the drawdown, and that can also be calculated but which will be shown. But first let me do the Kalmar ratio, which is the excess return, and that's something you can see here. We found the excess return before divided by the maximum drawdown, which will give you the Kalmar ratio. Now if you find the average drawdown, which is equal average if, and then you can assign the range of that calculation that you just did in your drawdown column. Okay, so that was here, average if they are greater than, sorry, less than 0, isn't it? So average if you define the range and criteria is less than 0, close, and the average range needs to be given again. So basically by doing this, what you find is the average of just these 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So let me do it again. I'll find it here, equal average if this is the range and criteria is less than 0, inverted comma, again the range of the drawdown, and close. So as I said, this function is going to give you average for this number here. Okay, the same, it's just reported in percentage and symbol. Yep. So once you find this, which is cell AL33, now you can simply go down here to report these answers that you have found just now and say to computer average drawdown equal AL33, and therefore the sterling now is the excess return divided by the average drawdown, which is this number here. Okay, so and then a comparison can be made to evaluate the performance of the portfolio. So I know I have introduced here some new, such as the Kalmar and Sterling indicators, but there are many others that can be found. I'm just saying that a number of indicators to compare, evaluate the performance is possible. Okay, so hopefully this video is useful for you in your attempt to evaluate performance of your portfolio. Of course, you may as well want to compare it with the benchmark, and all these indicators can be very helpful. Thank you very much for listening.